All right, I'm excited for our AMP show today. Let's see, I'm going to go to the chat and see how you guys are all doing. How is everybody's Wednesday doing? How's it treating you? How's this week? Hi, Just Live Art. Hi, Haley. I'm doing good. I had a writing session today, and we worked on a song that we wrote a few weeks ago, and we were just kind of cleaning it up, adding some guitar to it, because I know you guys have been wanting me to do some rock music. So that's been really fun. And I think we got some good work done today, which is always exciting. So anyways, thanks for asking. Wednesday's great so far. I'm glad to hear that, DJ Tunes. Your day has been ugh. I'm sorry your day's been ugh. Yay, rock music. Oh, happy Black History Month. I was just listening to an Oprah podcast with the author of the guy who wrote Just Mercy, and now I really want to read that book. Just fascinating. I saw the movie, and the movie just left me so shook and in tears. Greetings from Boulder, Colorado. Hello, hello. Oh, I'm sorry your life's been difficult lately, but yeah, keep hanging in there. I'm reading your guys' comments. Your day's been weird. Accidentally punched metal and my finger went snap. That sounds really bad. That's like my worst fear, is that I'll snap one of my fingers, as you say. But anyways, today I'm excited. My sister's actually going to be my guest. That's why it says sister talk. It's not just being like, sister talk. It's actually my sister. So Jennifer will be calling in here shortly. I'm just waiting for her to join. But anyways, let me see what else. Haven't heard from you since January 22nd. Gonna be back soon. Yeah, I'm still on my social media break. I just logged back in this afternoon to see if I felt like coming back. We'll see. I might just do a post or two, but I think for the next few months, I'm just going to be much more sparse. I mean, I might even post as much, but I'm going to try not to go on it as much as a consumer, I'm just going to try to maybe go on for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. I think I'll do one of those things where you guys set a timer on the app. Have you guys ever done that? I should do that for all of my social media apps, because it's just amazing how much time you waste and spend on those things. So has anyone ever done that? Set a timer? Someone's saying I'll have to look that book up. Yeah, Just Mercy. You should watch the movie, see if you like the movie. It's about the criminal justice system. It's a perfect topic for Black History Month because, oh gosh, I couldn't believe it. On the Oprah podcast, she was saying 1 in 3 Black men will face time in prison. What? And the book is about, and the movie is about this man, and he, his real life job is to get people off death row and to find mercy for people. And his whole motto is that you're not the worst thing you've ever done. And it's so, so true. But a lot of us get chances to prove that we're not the worst thing we've ever done. But then there's a lot of people that, because of prejudice or because where they're born, or, just, the way that the cards fell for them, they don't get another chance to show that they're better than what the worst thing is that they've done. So, anyways, and no, my social media break is not because someone told me to do it. It was just something I felt I needed to do. Just sometimes I get a little too addicted to it, and I start to realize wow, I'm putting way too much importance on what people say about me, and I'm caring way too much about what others post, and it's starting to affect the way I feel about myself. So then I'll go on these little breaks. So that is that. I think that Jennifer is having a hard time calling in. So I'm actually going to play a song. She gave me a list of some songs that she liked. And so we're just going to start. I've never heard this song before. We'll see what it is. I always like finding out about new music. It's from Cody Fry, and it's called Photograph. It's from his album Pictures of Mountains. Ooh, that was so peaceful. I was like, I should go to sleep listening to that song. I've actually been listening to a lot of music lately that's very calming and soothing. And someone asked me the other day, they're like, what are you listening to? Like, what new music? And I was like, to be honest, I've been listening to a lot of Enya. Which anyways, I just love how that kind of music makes me feel. It calms me down, especially like, I feel like a lot of us live in a pretty anxious place. And, the music we listen to really does have an effect on our moods and the pace of our breathing and, how fast our thoughts race. And so it's really nice sometimes to just slow down a little bit. So anyways, I'll have to thank Jennifer for sending that song in. And here she is right here, so I can thank her now. Hi, Jen. Let's see, you might be muted. Tap your microphone icon.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
There
you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you. How are you doing, Jen?
I'm doing good now that I'm here. It took me a while to figure out how to get on here, but we did it.
We did it! Yay! Yeah, sorry about that. And thanks for being willing to jump on today with me, kind of last minute. Jen's, pulling one out of the hoop for me, just because she's the freaking best and loves me. She's my sister. So doing me a solid. I love that song. Where did you find that song?
Yeah, believe it or not, it was our friend Rusden Ray. I was at his house and heard it on his loudspeakers and was like, what is this? And I guess his daughter was really into him. So, yeah. So Darren's been supporting it on his song. And, yeah, one of our favorite people still. We grew up with him, and now he's coaching our boys, doing the youth activities every week with them through church, and kind of fun and crazy. I love it.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. So for background for everybody else, when we were kids, we grew up across the street from the Ray family, and the Ray family had 11 kids, and they had several kids that were the age of me and Jennifer and our other sister Brooke. So we were always running back and forth, from the Ray's house to our house, and they would be running through our house. And it was just like so much fun to grow up with a family that had so much going on and so many kids to play with. And we'd play cops and robbers on rollerblades, around their yard and stuff. It was a very active childhood. It was fun.
It was so fun. They were always doing something new, or they would call us over. They played April Fool's jokes on us. We stole their Christmas lights one year.
Yeah, we had a really fun relationship with their whole family. Their parents were hilarious, and our parents were pretty game to play along. And it's so funny that you mentioned Rusden Ray, because Donnie Ray, who is my age, just texted me out of the blue today for the first time in probably 2 years. I haven't talked to Donnie. So random. I'll have to tell her that we were talking about Rusden.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, okay, Jennifer, I want to dive in and just talk about the amazing journey you've had, because I've watched you our entire lives grow and change in some extremely profound ways, to the point where I can honestly say you're a different person than the sister I grew up with, in an amazing way. You've taken control of your life and changed the things about you that you wanted to change. And you've found a whole new side of yourself that was almost, I would like to say, buried for a long time. And so I would like you to just maybe start out by describing who you were and how you felt about yourself, and how you would describe yourself when you were a child and a teenager.
Pretty low. I was pretty much born with quote unquote chronic genetic depression. Our grandpa called me sober sides, and I was pretty much angry every day. I would say 80% of the time that I was awake, I was mad. And I felt like a drain on society. I didn't feel like anyone really, I didn't like myself. And so I didn't really blame anyone for not liking to be around me, but it was so hard because I didn't want to be that way. And it felt like just so, I questioned my worth, because I'm like, if this is who I am, I suck. Really, because I'm not a nice person. No matter how hard I try, it doesn't seem to matter. And I'm just mean. And I was mean to you. I was mean to my parents. I could hold my own in public, but had very few close friends because the ones that I had would occasionally see that side of me and were very patient and sweet. But I was very careful who I picked because it had to be someone who was very forgiving. And so I really didn't open up to a lot of people. And it felt like it was kind of a hopeless situation. When I was 15, I got put on Prozac, and that kind of took the edge off where I could get through the day without biting anybody's head off. But it also had side effects. I was tired. It didn't really fix the way I felt about myself. It just made me less volatile and just more numb. But it also made it hard for me to connect to anyone emotionally. Whereas before, I couldn't really connect to anyone because I was angry. So it didn't really matter. And I figured, this is the better of the two evils, right? But it wasn't until I was about 25 years old when actually our mom told me that she had done some research or asked some people about the long-term side effects of Prozac. And she told me that basically they were finding that long-term users of the drug were turning into kind of just really not motivated, not wanting to do anything, basically a couch potato. And being my personality, wanting to do things, but I could kind of see that happening to me even after I'd taken it for about 10 years. And I made the decision in that moment that I can't stay on this. There's got to be a way, because we were always taught that there's miracles, that they're real, that there is a God who loves us. And for listeners who, there's all walks of life, that there's something out there that is bigger and better than us, that knows our follies, knows what we're going through, and that can help us, and that can heal us. And we'd always been taught that, and yet I'd never been able to find that healing or that relief. And in that moment, I was so frustrated because it felt like I was damned if I did, or I damned if I didn't. I was going to turn into a monster if I stopped taking my Prozac, and I literally screamed at God and was like, you know what? You made me. I'm so tired. I'm so sick of trying and nothing working. Fix me. You made me. Fix me. I'm done. Like, I'm not willing to try anymore. I want results. And It was a deciding moment. And later on, I learned that the word decision means to cut off. Basically, all other options are gone. And that was literally what it was for me. It's like, this is happening. I don't care how, but you're going to fix it. And it was that point that I started learning what the Christian atonement actually means. Because I'd always been, we grew up with, our dad was a seminary teacher. So he was always telling us sweet things like, oh, Jennifer, just use the atonement. And I was like, yeah, whatever, Dad, because I just didn't understand what that would look like. Yeah, whatever. I have faith in Jesus. I know he lives, but I just don't think he's that aware of me, or that he just wants me to suffer for the rest of my life and learn something from it. I don't know. But I really didn't get that actually you're supposed to surrender everything and be like, I can't do it, and let him fix you. Really, I didn't. It was miraculous. And I feel like anyone who does this, it's not going to look the same for any two people. But for me, what it looked like was I accidentally came upon some information that might have suggested that eating fish 3 times a week was really healthy for you, and that people who did this found that they didn't have depression as much. And I was like, well, actually, it was a study based that the people in the countries that ate the most fish weren't as depressed. And at the time, I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. I tried fish oil. It didn't work. But it sounds healthy. I'll do it. 3 months later, which is actually, I found out later, but it takes 3 months for this to actually get in your system, of the consistency of the oils in your brain and all of that to actually make a difference. But I, quote unquote, forgot to get my medication at just that exact time. It's kind of miraculous because I hadn't fallen off the bandwagon yet, hadn't stopped eating the fish, which if I'd waited much longer, I wonder if I'd have been that consistent, because it really did take eating it 3 days a week. But I started, getting myself ready. It'd been 5 days since I'd had the medication, and I realized that I hadn't had it. And I'm like, oh, I need to go get my medication. So I started getting ready to go. And it hit me that, oh my gosh, it's been 5 days. And by usually day 3, I was a mess. And I was completely and totally okay. And I sat down and I cried because I realized that this was working. And I didn't even believe it would work. But it was at that point that I realized that there were things on this planet that God had given us. There were solutions. I just didn't know what they were. And so in my mind, I tried everything. And then after that, I was like, okay, what more can I do? What more can I learn? How else can I improve? If fish can make me feel this good, like what else is out there that can bring me to that next level? And then I've basically spent my life since researching and delving into different things that can just get me to the next step, the next step, the next step. And I feel like I'm in a place now where, of course, I'm not perfect, but I live a life full of joy. And I love my life, and I love the people around me, and I feel like I am able to give back to my kids and give back to my husband and give back to my community in ways that I could not before. It was literally survival every day. And I felt like I was a drain on everyone around me. And it really is a like night and day difference. Like if people who know me now who didn't know me before, they wouldn't recognize me. And I think that's my the thing that I'm most grateful for in my life was the opportunity to see that difference, because had I not experienced that level of darkness, I wouldn't be able to appreciate the light I have in my life now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't that's such an interesting perspective, because it is a lot of times our biggest struggles that give us all the perspective we have and allow us to, one, have the gratitude, but also have the power to say, oh my gosh, I want to make a difference. I want to help other people. Like I have a story to share. And the only way you find that story and find that strength and find that perspective and that empathy is through going through like a pretty intense hardship of some kind, you know? And I just want to test and like second what you said. Like, I don't know, it's been so amazing. And I just like, not like I can even say the word proud, because it's not like I have any stake in it. Like I didn't do anything to help you become the person you are, except just like love you through it all. But it's just been so amazing. And I just look at you with so much joy and pride, because I know how hard you've worked to get to where you're at. And you are a completely different person in the way that I feel when I'm around you, and the way that I can connect with you now versus, you know, being a child, I never understood. Mom would explain to me that Jennifer has depression and try to explain to me what that meant. But it didn't make me understand as a like 11-year-old why I just thought my sister was mean, you know?
Oh, I was so mean. And we hated each other. I mean, I don't think that's an understatement. When we were younger, I mean, I think there was an underlying love there for sure. But I mean, we were at each other's throats constantly. I think even as adults, we could tolerate, and the word tolerate is no underestimation. Like we could like make it work for about 2.5 days. And then at the end of the once it started getting about 3 days, like we were done. That was all we could handle. And so it's just so nice to be able to sincerely enjoy your company, you know, and everybody else too.
It's really funny, because I sometimes will tell people and joke with them. It's like, oh, your family seems so good and healthy, and like, you know, and I laugh. I'm like, well, there was a time period as an adult when we knew we couldn't be together for more than like 3 days max, or like, you know, shit would hit the fan, you know, and it was a real thing. So it's just been really amazing as all of us have grown up and learned our own quirks and our own things. You know, we've all had our own things to learn and to grow through, but I think that can give anybody hope that has struggling, you know, situations with their family or with their loved ones, and wonders if they'll ever get through. Because I, for a time, thought we would always just tolerate each other, you know, not just you and me, but like a lot of the dynamics in our family. And it's been really, really exciting. And I'm curious, are there any things that you do? You mentioned that you eat fish 3 times a week. Is that something you still do? And then also, are there any other things that you do, practices or, you know, routines that you do on a daily or a weekly basis that help you maintain this really great place that you've gotten to?
Definitely. I think that it's more of a long-term, like you might lose some battles, but the goal is to win the war. And so I think there's big stuff that I've done along the way that has given me residual income, if you will, and other stuff that I maintain on a daily. So like every morning I look in the mirror and I do a little exercise where I do the Lifeline technique is where it comes from. But basically, today I choose to be my very best by being 100%. And then you go through the thing, and then I state my words for the year, the things that I'm going to be years going to do. And I do that every morning. I do a meditation. This is just like starting this year. I started doing this, but I found it so helpful that I like couldn't even imagine my life without it anymore. But my meditation, Falun Dafa, I do that. I try to do that every day. I eat really, really healthy food. Like I have kefir every morning. I like pound it with lots of superfoods, mix-ins, stuff like that. I feed that to my baby as well. I think I don't eat fish 3 days a week anymore. And part of it was because I healed in other ways, but also because I eat so healthy now that I get all the nutrition that I need and all the good fats from just a variety of foods, so that that's not my crutch anymore. Whereas before, when I ate a fairly Americanized diet, if I stopped eating the fish, I'd start to feel angry and depressed pretty quickly again. That was literally my drug back then. But just having cleansed, I got really sick for a while. That was a big one. I had to do a major body cleanse. It took me about a year. It's one of the harder things I've ever done. Also energy work, finding energy healers that resonated with me, that we could go back and start purging stuff that I had suppressed, and things that limiting beliefs and things of that sort. Also catching myself when I'm talking to myself in an inappropriate way, turning things around. Like if it's huge, but it's a practice. It's like not something that came easily to me, but it comes easier now. Like I don't use the words should, can't. I pick myself up pretty quick when I'm feeling down about something, or, oh, that was stupid. Like, well, you've done stupid things before and it's always ended up okay. Like you're not a stupid person just because you did a stupid thing, just comforting yourself, or, not necessarily looking for reassurance or gratification or validation from the outside world, but you've got to be your best coach. And that's really hard to do when you're depressed. So it's been a years-long journey of learning how to do something that eventually became second nature. I don't have to try anymore most of the time. It just happens. Like I get kicked down. I'm like, whew, that was rough. Like the day, like for example, this is really awful, but the day my second husband left me, I was devastated. I was devastated. Went to pick up my kids from school. I was, obviously a mess. Mom, are you okay? What's happened? He's leaving. Had to tell them. And, they were the children of my first marriage. And we came home. He was packing his things and getting ready to leave. And so we're sitting there in the middle of the floor. And I just happened to get the paperwork from the court from my first husband that basically now said that they get to spend half the time with dad, whereas I had him 5 days a week before that. And now I was going to lose my kids half the time. So my husband's leaving me and my kids are going to be gone more. And I'm sitting there in the middle of the floor just like shell-shocked. Like with this information, like, like I don't even know what to do with this. It's so much. And my son, Jaron, he looked at me and he goes, Hurricane Harvey was today too. And it was just silent for a second. And he starts to laugh and he goes, today's a really, really bad day. And we all just started laughing because it was almost ridiculous how bad this day was. And I was just like, yeah, it's a bad day. But just because I've been through a lot of bad days, I know that things can get better. And I had the tools up to that point that I'm like, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to be okay. And I literally gave myself, at that moment, I'm like, I'm going to give myself 3 months and I'm going to work really, really hard. Because in that moment, I was so not okay. And I'm like, in 3 months, I'm going to work through all of this and then I'm going to move on. And I'm going to leave it behind and I'm going to live my life and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Regardless of what other people around me are doing or choosing, I can choose the life that I want. And I picked myself up and I kept going. Now, was it easy? No. I'd wake up at 3 a.m, couldn't sleep. I'd go on 8-mile runs, just like run. I can't handle this. But I knew that I was strong enough. Sometimes we're not strong enough. And I think when we're not strong enough, those are the times to call upon God, call upon friends, and which I did. I got lots of coaching. I I actually joined a soccer league, which terrified me. I hadn't played soccer in like 15 years, but I'm like, you know what? This will be a distraction, something I can do for myself, and things like that helped. So I really got down and dirty. I'm like, okay, it's like warrior, put the warrior garment on. It's time to go, time to fight.
Mhm.
Like, you're not going to get me down. Like, you're not going to leave me like this. I will fight back. I will be better than I was before. And having that kind of an attitude. And it's
What do you
not
think
easy to,
allowed you
again, to do that.
What do you think allowed you to have that kind of an attitude versus, like, there might have been a time in your life when you wouldn't have had that kind of attitude. It might have been the kind of thing that would have crushed you and crumpled you in a way that you wouldn't have been like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to make it. I'm going to rise through this. Like, what do you think was in your life at that time that made that difference?
Experience. I mean, I was crushed. I was absolutely defeated in that moment. But because I'd overcome things before, I'm like, I know what I've done before, and I can do it again. And there's a first time for everybody. Like, my first time was when I realized that, oh my gosh, I don't need to go get the Prozac anymore. Like, that was literally the first time I had overcome anything of that magnitude. And it was after that gave me the hope and the confidence to move forward. And when other things would happen, I'd be like, okay, like, this is just the next Goliath. And I really look at life like that. It's like a game. And it's like every time you hit something really hard, it's like, oh, I just leveled up. If there are those gamers that are out there, it's like, you defeated that one. Cool. You beat that dragon. Now here's the next one to prepare you for the next level. And I think of life that way, as a game. And I'm like, cool, like, if I'm worthy to receive this opponent, that says something of a compliment to me, that I'm ready. And not to say I can do it on my own. Again, I feel like we're expected to call upon the powers of the universe to help us. And if we don't, we're just being naive and stupid. But it's because we're not expected to do anything by ourselves. That's the point. That we have to reach beyond ourselves in some of these situations, either help on this planet or on the other side, to get through them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just want to reiterate and talk through the things that you mentioned that kind of are your tool belt at this point, or all the things that you've done. And I like that it started with like one check mark of like, oh my gosh, this worked. And then you just went so deep of figuring out, well, what else can I eat that's going to be fuel for my body and that's going to help my brain, And so, like, changing your diet was a huge thing. And I remember at first I was like, oh, Jen's getting all hippie on us. She's doing all these weird things, eating all this weird stuff. But I always joke now, I'm like, oh my gosh, Jennifer was just ahead of the curve, because I swear, about a year after you started talking about all of this stuff, suddenly social media started to be full of people talking about all of this stuff, about how you can food hack your way to a healthier mind, and all this organic talk. And I swear it was just like a year or two after you dove deep into it, and I was like, whoa, she was ahead of the curve. So you completely revamped your diet, and that changed your life and helped your mind. I love that you talked about the conversation in your own mind, and it's not just about noticing it. It's about learning to, first you notice, oh, I'm not saying nice things to myself, and then catching them earlier and earlier and earlier till it becomes this thing where you hear the voice start to talk to you, and you say, no, we're not going there today, and you get to, and it's a practice, like you said, and now you're really good at it, but it takes years to develop that. So I love that the things you're sharing here, they may not be quick fixes, but they're the kind of things that as you implement them, they're life changing. And I can only relate to this mostly from my experience with anorexia, and just how that had consumed me so fully, and then slowly crawling my way out of that hole. There was no quick fix. The only way to do it was by starting step by step with one, food. Second, what I talked to myself about. Also, therapy. You talked about energy healing and therapy, and just basically making new normals in your life, because there's these patterns that are so ingrained, and you have to one by one change them. So for, I know that in my, my community, my fan community, we talk a lot about mental health. It's something that's obviously a huge part of my life, and my fans, it seems to be something that they can all relate to, whether it's anxiety or depression or like bipolar. Like, everybody shares their different, journeys with mental health in this group. And so where would you tell people to start if they're in a place where they just feel like they're drowning in like a bad place in mental health? Where would you tell people to start?
I think, regardless of the way you feel about a God, just when I say God, I mean whatever you can connect to. I really think that there is a source that knows exactly what you need. Would fish fix every person?
Let's. Uh-oh. I don't know if you can you guys hear me still? Oh,
Are we back?
you're back. You're back. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. You were just saying, could fish fix every person? Probably not, and then continue from there.
Yeah, it kicked me off. I'm not sure why. Sorry, I'm back.
You're back.
So I don't. Woohoo! I don't know that fish would fix every person. It definitely wouldn't hurt, but I think that everyone is so different. We operate differently. We have different parenting. We have different ancestors. We have different psychology. We have different emotions. Just the way we operate are so different, and the foods we need are so different that it really takes kind of a divine knowing to know where to start, because we can just try to hit and miss all over the place and not really hit anything and get worn out. Willpower, you've only got so much of it before you run out of it. And then it's like, I see a lot of people who are depressed and anxious who have just lost all hope. They don't want to try anymore, and they've just decided and resorted to like the fact in their mind that I'm going to be depressed or anxious for the rest of my life, and I just have to cope. And I hate seeing that, because I definitely felt some of that. I think it was my faith that there was this little spark that was like, no, Jennifer, there's more to this. Like, you can be happy. And I was like, yeah, but I don't believe it. But I wanted to believe it. And it was that connection to God that made me not give up on myself. And I think that connection is just astronomically important, whatever that looks like. And being able to kind of recognize when you find the thing that resonates. Because if you put it out there, you make that decision, and it takes a lot to come to a decision sometimes, to be able to sincerely and completely, especially when you're depressed, or when a person's feeling depressed and anxious, it's really hard to come to that point sometimes, to decide that I'm going to overcome this, and to love themselves enough to make that decision. But if you are struggling with that, you can work on like the desire to decide. Like, that can be a really good place to start. But making a decision, it changes everything. And once you do, it's like that manifesting power of bringing exactly what you need will show up, but you have to be committed to it. And I think that's only something that you can do. You can go to every doctor, spend thousands of dollars and still not find it if you're not aligned and willing to wait for the right thing to show up in your space. And just being like, some people need to be patient. Some people are really good at getting answers right away. Some people need to experience this first, learn this thing. But to know that I don't think there's a single person on this planet who was sent here to be depressed or anxious for the rest of their life. I think that was just one of those things, like almost like Sherlock Holmes. Like, you got to figure out this mystery, and when you do, it's going to be so fun and exciting. But not to lose hope, but to work on the connection so you can manifest what it is. Like, you're like, I don't even know what it is. And I'll be like, I have pages and pages of ideas, and I could make suggestions to you for sure. And I can ask intuitively to maybe be able to guide people in the right direction, but only you can recognize it and go forward enough to make that a reality. It can only come with deciding. And sometimes it takes years to get there, and that's okay. Just start moving forward. But yeah, I don't want anyone to believe that they're a hopeless case. I don't believe those exist. Even in the worst case scenarios, I don't believe that progress or, that can be made. Even in psychotic cases, like there's something there that can that miracles do happen. That's the bottom line. But only, I think miracles are exactly what it describes it. It's a miracle. And I think that when we experience a miracle, that's when we have the faith to move on to the next one and continue seeking counsel from the divine, from God.
That's really beautiful.
It's a hard thing to describe. It's just something that happens, and then you're trying to help other people get that experience, but it's going to look different for them.
Yeah. And, I love that you talked about, a higher power, whatever that means to somebody. Like, believing in something greater than yourself is one of the biggest indicators of finding hope, I think, just from my own experience. No matter how hopeless you feel, if you feel like there's something out there that's got your back, whether it's the universe or God, like, it is the strongest thing that helps people from giving up on themselves. And so it is such an important thing. But I also like that you talked about, like, manifesting for yourself the answers, asking God or asking your faith, asking the universe, but also trusting that it will come to you. I'm such a big believer in manifesting, and I feel like in certain areas of my life, I've been an incredibly powerful manifester, and things have come to me that are just crazy that I can't explain because I wished for them, and I believe that there's magic in this world. But then again, there's other parts of my life that I don't think I believe in as strongly, like in myself, or I don't quite have as much faith that those things will come as maybe certain areas of my life. And as a result, like, I haven't manifested those parts, and it's something I'm working on. And, but I like that you put it in the context of, like, finding out your own life and figuring out your own mental health and figuring out what's going to make you the happiest, not just like goals and, bucket list things, but like, what is going to make you feel the best in your body and in your life. Like, manifest those answers. They will come to you. I think that's really, really powerful. Were there any people who specifically inspired you?
Yes.
There you
are. Specifically, there was a life coach that I felt prompted to let help me. Like, basically, there's a lot of people who nobody knows about, just people doing what they felt was right. The serving, and most of the people that I went to did not charge me inordinate amounts of money. Like, it was what I could afford when I was poor. So I feel like some people, they get desperate and they start spending tons and tons of money, and like, you can find exactly what you need on the budget you have. Like, there's never an excuse that, well, I don't have enough money to go to the person or to get a counseling or whatever. Like you could need this person over here who won't charge you anything, who will literally, you'll become friends with them and they'll say something that you go, wait, say that again. Or it just resonate. You'll feel this warmth in your body that's like, there's something to that. I'm going to investigate it. And you go do that thing or whatever it is. But not having enough money to get help is not the thing. Like, you can get help on any level at any time, with or without funds, because God wants us to be successful. He wants us to succeed, and he'll send us what we need. So I mean, there were YouTube people that I listened to that I found at the right time. It was like, well, this is really helpful. I really need this right now. And I think that a part of the key is being able to formulate or see that you have a purpose, because if you don't feel like you have a purpose, it's really hard to improve or have any hope for the future if you don't think you came here to do anything. And I don't believe there's any single person on this planet who wasn't sent here for a purpose. And if you don't figure out your own stuff and you don't progress and you don't heal, you're never going to be able to do what you're supposed to do here. And that's just a fact as far as I can tell. Like, you can't help all those people you were meant to help or do the things you were supposed to do if you're running around in circles chasing your own tail, or so depressed that you can't resonate and find the people you were supposed to reach here. And if you can do nothing but think of the other people that are going to miss out if you don't heal, like, let that be your motive. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for the people you haven't met yet who are going to need you. And I think that, in a sense, was part of what drove me forward from time to time when I couldn't do it for myself. It was that I know there's more to this. I've got to be better, because if I'm not, then the time will come when someone is going to struggle because I wasn't there, cognitively, emotionally, because I couldn't be there. And that's not to say they couldn't get help from somewhere else, but that we really are needed, and that we really truly are. There's people that we can help the best. Like, they really, really, truly need you. It doesn't mean that they can't get it from somewhere else, but you were chosen for them. And if you don't show up, it's just not going to be as good. Like, you really, really, truly need it.
Yeah, I like a comment in the chat. Allie says, someone told me you can pour into other people's cups if you're, or you can't pour into other people's cups if your own cup is empty. You have to fill your own cup first. I think that you're a perfect example of this, because now you actually have your own site where you have all these resources and you help people find out ways to overcome depression. And you also are like a life coach now, and you help clients figure out their own journeys with their mental health. And so I would love to hear you talk about like what you're doing now with that, and you know, just how that experience has been now after coming through all this, now being able to be that person that can fill other people's cups.
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to share with people what I know, because I love it so much. I'm like an encyclopedia of how to overcome depression. Like, just so much. And there's just so many people who don't know that they can heal. And so I started I'm Aquarius with that in mind. My goal is to launch an overcome depression program this year, or at least get it really up and running by early next year. That's like plug and play. Like, you can go in, start listening to modules, and then we could meet once a week, like over Zoom, like as a community, and people can ask questions and just kind of be encouraging to one another. How you doing? What are you doing this week? How's this working for you? And so that's kind of the ultimate goal. And right now I'm also doing the natal chart session in conjunction with like trying to help give people hope. Basically, my job is to help people see who they are and give them hope that, oh, I really am here for a reason. And I'm like, yeah, honey, like, you're super important. And that's what I love about the charts, is because it can kind of give me a flavor or an idea of how this person ticks and who they are before we meet. So I'm not asking a gazillion questions. We can just go. And it helps me to kind of like streamline to what they need. And I can be like, well, does this sound right? And they're like, no. And then it's like, okay, cool, that's fine. Like, moving on. Because you're not always going to interpret a chart right, but it definitely gives clues. And if they tell me just in one sentence, like, this is kind of where I'm at, I can be like, okay, cool. Like, I can kind of see where that is, and work from there.
So, okay, so you do these sessions where you read people's charts. Talk a little bit more about that, because I've really enjoyed it. So, Jennifer, I'll just tell you guys, you learned all about astrology. You took classes on it. You worked with a mentor, and now you have the ability to like read star charts. And Jennifer has read my chart in depth. And there's even been times like this fall, actually. And I think I shared this even on this, this platform. I think I shared that this fall, I just had a really hard time. Just mentally, I was in a funk for like months. And at this point, kind of like Jen was saying, I understand my mental health pretty well. And I'm like, I know I'm going to snap out of this. It doesn't mean it's fun though. And it was really hard. And I called Jennifer one day and I was like, Jennifer, is there something crazy going on in my chart? Because like, I just want some answers to know maybe how I can approach this better. And, or I want to know if there is a reason why I'm feeling this way. And it was really helpful for you to kind of talk to me about some of the things that were going on in my chart and what it might be bringing up internally for me. And it was all pretty spot on, and it helped me just kind of better gauge and get through those really tough months, and to kind of be able to give myself a pat on the back when I was especially struggling, and being like, hey, it's okay. This is a hard time for us. Like, we're going to get through it though. We're not going to think we're stupid or dumb or lame. Like, we're going to get through it. So anyways, I want to just hear I want you to talk a little bit more about how astrology has helped you. And you kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'd like you to go deeper.
Sure. I think it's helped me understand my kids better, my mom better. We had a terrible relationship for years and years and years and years. The we're explosive. We were both pretty awful to each other, and it was like not until I started studying astrology, and it's called light field astrology, ilixology. I didn't feel comfortable about really getting into it until I found this particular mentor, because she was so God centered. I'm like, yes, like, and I always believed there was something to it because of the wise men being astronomers and astrologers. They were like synonymous back then. It was considered a science, and that they could actually locate the baby Jesus. Like, when he's 2, he's going to be here, and should be born here. Like, that's phenomenal. But when people say, oh, no, that's just astronomy, I'm like, astronomers don't do that. Like, and if you look at how they operated back then, they were synonymous. They did both. But it's just really interesting that's part of the Bible, and yet there is a dark side of astrology that is very much fortune telling, and I don't really like getting into that. Oh, did it block me out again? Are we still here?
No, you're here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good.
So I loved the idea that our natal chart says basically, and it made me feel special. I suppose being an Aquarius, I like being different. I want to feel like I am unique, and having a star chart that's unlike anybody else's. Nobody has the same chart. Nobody. It says something specific about you that's special, and it's like heaven screaming your name and saying, Jennifer is here. And it to me, that's beautiful. Does man have all the answers? No, but it's basically the study of behavior and how, the planets might, there's also scientific studies that have been shown to show how the planets, as they move in the magnetic fields that they create and the energy there, actually does affect people's health, their moods, their ability to control themselves, or they're more tired or more energetic. Like, just it's interesting. So I think there's a lot of Christians who might be listening and going, oh, astrology, and just try to have an open mind. Like, it's not always what it seems. And I have found so much healing. I don't know of anything else that's so good at like psychoanalysis, to recognize things that, oh yeah, and then to see it in your chart and go, oh my goodness, yes, and to cry about it because you're like, I didn't realize that was a part of the plan, part of my life. There's a purpose, there's a reason for it. And then when I overcome it, I can get over here to where I've always wanted to go, but never thought I was good enough to do it. And then my chart's like saying I'm supposed to. And it's very encouraging. And so even if like it meant nothing and it was a whole sham, like if it provides that kind of hope for people who, at least for me, who maybe didn't think they could do something before, like I can't see it doing anything but good. And I've had people ask me, well, what's bad in my chart? And I'm like, nothing. There's no such thing. Everything's good. There's things that are challenging, or this might show that this might be a tough period, but it's all good. It's all there for a reason. And even being depressed, like I've said already, that there was a reason for that. It made me who I am. And so I think it's magnificent. It's helped me again to understand the people in my life better, and especially my mother. Like, we love each other now, we like each other now, and that never was a thing before. I was able to connect and forgive her by looking at her chart and seeing all the ways that she struggled and going, oh wow, if you look at my chart and how it interacts with hers, I'm triggering her constantly. Oh my goodness, and how that compassion, that understanding, and being able to understand, I think, is key, because when you can understand how others work, you understand how you work. Forget about trying to be understood. Like, I think the whole Stephen Covey thing of, try to understand so you can be and then be understood. I think it should end with try to understand. The end, and it just makes things so much easier when you're not consumed with trying to force people around you to understand you. Letting that go is so freeing. So freeing. But if you spend your time trying to understand how you operate and trying to understand, asking questions, understand how other people around you are operating, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, I've found that to be more healing than any other thing. It makes it easier to forgive yourself, forgive other people, and move on.
That's beautiful. I love that. Try to understand, period. And the whole astrology thing, I've only recently in the last, probably, honestly, since you started getting really into it, is when I was like, okay, I guess I can be open to this astrology thing. And, I like to think of it as, I really think it can fit with spirituality or religion. Or, a lot of people don't think the two can cross over each other, but it's almost like we have our biological DNA that was created. It doesn't mean that we are having our lives predicted for us just because we have a certain set of DNA and we have certain things that biologically we're better at, or we're taller than other people or shorter than other people or faster, or whatever. Like naturally we have all this DNA that makes us have aptitude for certain things, and other things are harder. And if you think about, like, we have a spiritual DNA made by like where the stars were, this recipe that kind of created our personality and like the things that we might struggle with and the things that maybe we would be gifted at. Doesn't again mean that we're having our lives predicted for us or predetermined. It's just like, it's really cool to get your star chart read and be told all these gifts that you have and these things that, you, like you said, that you are special because you are this way. And anyways, I think it's really beautiful, and I've quite enjoyed, having you read my chart. And are you now doing that like for clients? I don't remember.
On my website, there's a book a session tab. I'll do one session per day. So once that session is taken, the rest of the day deletes, because I have a family. I'm doing a lot of things, so I try to limit myself, and also I prepare a lot before and after the sessions, because I really do want to come fully and completely and not be used up. Like if I was doing 8 sessions a day, I don't think I could come full for anybody. So I'm giving what I believe that I could give entirely. And I think what you were saying too, with just astrology, I think that people misunderstand that it's not foretelling anything. It's just kind of like reading the weather, like what it might feel like. You could have twins born a couple minutes apart. Their charts are going to look really similar, but they often turn out so different. And it's often because they responded to the energy very differently. It wasn't that it was tremendously different, but they did come here with their own agency. And that's, I think, the thing that I want to end with, is just that agency is everything. You can choose into, out of, lean in, lean out, that we have the power to make changes or to move forward or backwards. And sometimes that power is taken from us in moments, but we don't have to let those moments consume us for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. We can let those moments be in the past and move forward.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. And, just touching back on what you said earlier about like understand, like give other people that understanding, and suddenly we won't care so much if people understand us. I think that is so powerful, and I've never really thought about it like that. So thanks for sharing that. That really hit me strong. And
it's something I have to remind myself of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not always easy to do. I mean, I think we all want to be understood. So to just like, Jennifer, you don't just focus on them. It's not about you.
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting that it's like, when we get a chance anytime to get a slight glimpse into the life of somebody else, like a stranger possibly, suddenly it's amazing how much how much you care for this person because you heard one detail about their life and something they're struggling with, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this person needs love, and it's like, oh my gosh, if we just could have a little bit of understanding for people and seeing them as people, I think that the world would change if we just gave people the benefit of the doubt to say, hey, they're probably going through a rough time, or I bet everybody in this room right now, or I bet everybody listening today, everybody probably is praying for a miracle or hoping for like something miraculous that they need to happen in their life. And so if we can just have that ounce of understanding for other people and compassion, that's really, I think, where the world changes. Well, before we end though, Jennifer, I want to just ask you, where can people find you? Like if they want to find more out about your website and the resources, like I know you have a blog that you post on, a lot of information on there. You also do chart readings and all that stuff. So where can people find you?
I'm Aquarius.com, and I've got I'm Aquarius Jen, and I think it's mostly I'm Aquarius Jen on here. On AMP, it's I'm Aquarius. So those two handles for the socials. And I try to post.
I'm Aquarius.
I'm not amazing at posting, but I'll try to do better.
I mean, that's okay, but people can go to your website, imaquarius.com, and then on Instagram, it's I'm Aquarius Jen, right?
Mm-hmm. But I'm Aquarius Jen on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, to kind of play us out, I want to play one of the songs you sent me. I started with a photograph, obviously, but you suggested The Weller Man, which I smiled when I saw that because I was like, oh my gosh, I loved this. And then Remember Me by Thomas Ferguson. So is there either one of those that you'd like to end our show with?
Let's do Weller Man.
All right. Well, we're going to play out Weller Man, and then we'll end the show. But Jen, thanks so much for coming on. This was so insightful, and I loved getting to hear in depth your story because obviously I've witnessed it and heard pieces here and there, but it was really cool to sit and hear it all in one moment, one sweep like that. So thanks for sharing so much and being so vulnerable. And thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, we'll see you next Wednesday. And here is The Weller Man by Nathan Evans, TikTok extraordinaire from 2020, I think.